Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full Lanterns Episode 1 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references to the Green Lantern comics and the DCU movies right now, a bunch of WTF moments, so we will break it all down. The wait is finally over. DC finally did something with Green Lantern 15 years after the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. And even though James Gunn did joke that he called Ryan Reynolds after he got hired to be the new Kevin Feige of DC, asking him if he would come back as Hal Jordan Green Lantern, that was just a joke. He didn't actually mean he was bringing Ryan Reynolds back. But there's always the chance that Ryan Reynolds does a voiceover from some other obscure character and they don't tell you about it till after he does it. And because so many of you wanted me to bring my Flash Ring giveaways from my Flash episodes to the Green Lantern episodes for the Lantern Rings, I will do that week to week. So all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber to my channel and leave all your reactions to episodes on my episode videos that I do post. And what I'll do is just pick a winner from the video comments every couple of episodes. They're definitely swinging for the fences with that big Ned Stark Game of Thrones level twist in episode 1, yet they do make you think that Hal Jordan might be dead. There's a gunshot wound that seems like a projectile through his head with a trail of blood. So remember, they show you the body. They really want you to think that he's dead in 2026. So you wonder what happened to him before this and what are they going to do for the rest of the series, because he's in pretty much all the episodes, but that's because they jump around in the timeline. And most of the series is meant to take place in 2016 while they're investigating this conspiracy theory about this big intergalactic war. So just remember, he's in most of the episodes, and I don't think that they're going to perma-kill him on the series, so I think that death at the end, the big WTF moment, is a big misdirect. In early theory, I do think they're setting Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan on for like a much bigger, crazier arc in future movies or future series, future seasons, if they do more seasons. During the episode, the characters are very careful to explain that there are a number of alien species that are perfect at replicating the look and feel of humans in a way that can disguise the most advanced technology, so it's possible that the dead body that you see at the end of the episode isn't the actual Hal Jordan. It's just meant to be an alien in disguise that they're using to trick some other group of aliens that Hal Jordan wants to entrap. Which would also be the reason why John Stewart doesn't find a ring on his finger, because the ring is still with the real Hal Jordan. We will unpack that as we go through the episode and future episodes, because James Gunn did say that the events of this series have ramifications for the entire DCU and all the movies going forward too. So remember, TLDR, even though Hal Jordan might seem like he's dead, I don't think he's going to stay that way by the end of the series. But the title of episode 1 is Pilot. It's both a reference to the pilot episode of a TV series, the initial test pilot the studios shoot to decide whether or not to pick up a show to series in order a full season of episodes. And it's also a reference to Hal Jordan, who was a test pilot before he became a Green Lantern. In the context of the series and the DCU, they make some minor changes to how he got the ring, but he gets it while he's still a test pilot in 1986 in his 20s. Hal Jordan is played by Kyle Chandler, who most of you know from Friday Night Lights or some other series or movies. He has been in so much stuff. He's all over the place. We find out that Hal Jordan's father was also from the military like he was in the comics. The episode does some quick backstory explaining for his character. He died during an accident while piloting a test aircraft, so the idea is that Hal Jordan followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a test pilot. He then explains the way he got the ring. It was like the comics. The ring found him, and all it asked of him was whether or not he was afraid, and he said no. Then it bubbled him and took him to Oans, Sir. We'll get to that in a second, because there's a lot more lore that they introduced with this whole intergalactic mystery in the circumstances for how Oans, Sir crashed to Earth in the first place. But Hal Jordan also introduces the idea that, in his opinion, after getting over the loss of a parent as a child, there was nothing left to fear in life, which I also think is a big misdirect, especially early in the episode, which will prove false, because later in the episode, Sheriff Carey tells John Stewart that it's a bullcrap idea, and Hal Jordan has just avoided fear his whole life by living a solitary life, being very lonely, no wife, no girlfriend, like no Carol Ferris to be found anywhere from the comics, no children. So in her opinion, he's had nothing he's loved that he was fearful of losing, and building close relationships open you up to fear because of that. So fear is meant to be the greatest enemy of the Green Lantern Corps. The Green Lantern rings and their energy are weak to the yellow spectrum of fear. So this is why during episode 1, so many different times, people ask the question, are you afraid? Are you fearful of things? If you did a drinking contest, drinking every time somebody mentions the word fear in the episode, you would be dead by the first 5 minutes. But by the end of the episode, where they reveal older Hal Jordan in his 60s from 2026, present day in the DCU right before Man of Tomorrow, seems like he was murdered, shot through the head with a projectile. It's also implied he'd been living in Rushville with Sheriff Carey in a relationship with her for years, and maybe her son Macon became his surrogate son in his later years that he just never had before then. So eventually he did find the family that he had missed his whole life. And maybe, early theory, the series will show that he eventually gives in to fear and they set him on a parallax arc, like he slowly gives in to fear, revealing that he's not really dead, and the body that you see in the finale is just a big misdirect of some kind, because they're not going to permakill Hal Jordan in the DCU on his first episode in the first outing. Also remember, this could still totally be a fake alien pretending to be Hal Jordan, and that's why he doesn't have the ring. We're not done with Hal Jordan in the DCU after this, and they set him on a parallax arc eventually, or for something even bigger. But one of the big changes the show makes is that all his life, up to 2016, he'd been the only Green Lantern on Earth. Guy Gardner had not gotten his ring up to yet in 2016, so my assumption is that he gets it within a few years of this, he's had it for a little while when the events of the first Superman movie pick up in 2025. Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner also shows up during this series, so maybe we'll see how he got the ring in the backstory of the DCU. And during Hal Jordan's younger years, even though there were metahumans on Earth, per the banner in the Hall of Justice in that little prequel during the first Superman movie explained the history of metahumans on Earth, Hal Jordan was never on any kind of team with any of them and never super close friends with any of them. Like I said, lived a solitary life up to this point. And if he did work with other superheroes, which he probably did cross paths with them, it was very brief or only crossing paths during investigations or involving aliens on Earth or around his sector of space. So there's no prehistoric or early version of the Justice Society before the Justice League that he was on a team with. And because it's still 2016 during the main part of the series, at this point, in the 2016 scenes, he has not met Superman yet because Superman hasn't made his identity public yet. Maybe the Guardians of Oa knew there was a Kryptonian on Earth. It would be weird for them not to know that. John Stewart is played by Aaron Pierre. He also starred on Krypton before this, so he has done DC stuff before, but he played a Kryptonian during that. Fun coincidence, though, they use Brainiac during that series. Brainiac is going to be the big villain in Man of Tomorrow. Aaron Pierre will come back as Green Lantern during the Man of Tomorrow movie. The circle of Easter eggs is now complete. The series does make some changes to his backstory in the DCU. He grows up in a military family like the comics, becomes a Marine like his father was in the comics, then becomes an architect after leaving the military like he was in the comics. But the show does this crazy thing, and you see it in the first 5 minutes, where they introduce the idea that his father does love him, he's a good father, but constantly subjects him to training from birth, where he periodically will try to test his fear by shooting apples off of his head outside the house, and constantly question, "Are you afraid? Are you afraid?" I do not know how his father never got arrested for this behavior or child abuse before this. Maybe other people on the base or nearby where they live just haven't reported him yet. But the crazy twist is that his father isn't doing this because he's absolutely bonkers or hates him or hates children or hates life in general. It's because his father is trying to prepare John Stewart to become a Green Lantern someday. So the whole idea is that his father's helping prepare him for the Green Lantern Corps. At a certain point, John Stewart is going to be selected and he'll have to test whether or not he has fear. So all his life he's been raised, John Stewart, to not have fear. Blame the Guardians of Oa for this. This is also why closer to present day, he has such a close relationship with his father. They still have a good relationship despite all the crazy tests that he put him through as a child to not have fear. It's all because his father really wants him to become a Green Lantern. But one of the ideas they introduce here is that John Stewart, despite being raised from birth to become part of the Green Lantern Corps, he's also been raised to obey orders without question, which I also think is another misdirect. I think the Guardians of Oa just want a human robot who will do whatever they say, they'll be able to finger puppet, and it's their way of replacing the Manhunters, which were their first creation and failed spectacularly, huge disaster, galaxy universe-wide disaster for them. We will talk more about the Manhunters as we get through further episodes because they do figure into the series, but Hal Jordan was declared an oath breaker by the Guardians, so he does not follow orders like the Guardians want. So the idea is that they want to replace him with someone who will be their loyal finger puppet, and they think that person will be John Stewart. The episode starts in 1996 with a young John Stewart watching Hal Jordan give his first public interview since becoming Green Lantern in 1986. So this is the world learning officially, him saying to the world, "I am Green Lantern." The reason why he waited 10 years to do that is because he stopped a meteorite from destroying a giant chunk of Earth, and it was just caught on camera, like he was caught in 4K. Everybody around the planet saw him do that. So he was forced to go public. It wasn't like he wanted the attention. You also notice during this interview, his suit is way more green, way cleaner, the colors are way brighter, mostly because he's younger and the suit has seen less battle damage. It's like a physical suit. He doesn't build it with his ring constructs like the Ryan Reynolds era Green Lantern. Another big note that they took from that era of Green Lantern, they listened to all of Ryan Reynolds complaining, please don't make it green or animated. I also kind of think in present day, the faded colors are meant to be a reference to the creeping influence of yellow and the idea that he's slowly succumbing to fear as he gets older. That was also one of the reasons for the gray streaks in his hair in the comics, like his hair started to go gray as he slowly succumbed to fear before he eventually became Parallax. We get that crazy twist of John Stewart's father training him to be fearless through birth. You notice all the different bullet holes rising up, so like he's been doing this since John Stewart was a much younger child. 6 days a week, you just do normal kid stuff. 1 day a week, I try to shoot an apple off of your head and almost kill you. Like I said, blame the Guardians of Oa for this kind of behavior. We get a really quick time jump to 10 years later in 2016. He's already become an apprentice Green Lantern to Hal Jordan. He's training at a boxing gym, waiting for him to pick him up. He drives up in a classic Buick Grand National. It's got Coast City plates on it because Hal Jordan is from Coast City in the comics. In 2016 is meant to be the main part of the series, with them investigating this Nebraska town, Rushville, in this intergalactic war mystery. He tries to explain he's late picking him up because he was off-world dealing with this intergalactic conflict. He says the name of the planet he was on was Pharaon 4. That's not from the DC Comics, that's something they made up for the episode, but it might be a reference to Della Pharaon, who is also a Star Sapphire in the comics, so it might just be a Star Sapphire deep cut. He just explains that it was on the verge of civil war, he helped stop it, and then just partied up to celebrate the new peace there. Hal then tests John Stewart by leaving his ring with him and bailing out of the car, causing it to crash off the cliff, John Stewart saving himself by making a construct of bubble wrap, but the car does not survive, so RIP, press F to pay respects. It was a very good car to have to waste. When the Lantern's logo flashes, notice that it starts by radiating yellow color inside the green first, more yellow spectrum, fear foreshadowing.
Sinestro.
The reason why everybody at the taco stand is fanboying over him is because he's a celebrity on Earth at this point. He's been a Green Lantern for decades, so like he's been public as a superhero for a long time, and everybody just loves him. He then meets Hal Jordan's backup consciousness in the ring from 10 years ago in 2006. Notice he looks a little younger, he's less gray, he's in his 40s, he's also way nicer, his disposition is just way happier in general. And the series introduces the idea that the Green Lanterns are required to back up their consciousnesses into their rings on a regular basis in case they're killed, so the Guardians can use the information to assess what's happened to them if anything crazy goes down. Generally just monitor what is happening around their deaths, whatever circumstances there were. But Hal Jordan stopped doing this after 2006, meaning he learned something important in 2006 that happened, causing him to stop listening to the Guardians and obeying those orders. This will be really critical because they make it seem like Hal Jordan is not doing what the Guardians want, and it's one of the reasons they want to replace him, so he's mistrustful of the Guardians, so there might be some big twists with what the Guardians are up to during this series. And the only message that his AI consciousness gives to himself in present day is that there's hail in Rushville, which is code for a warning that there are aliens in Rushville. Later, he explains to John Stewart that Rushville is the town where Abin Sur's spacecraft crashed originally, where he passed the Green Lantern ring to him, and Hal Jordan became a member of the Green Lantern Corps. He has a couple jokes about barely understanding Abin Sur's dying words. I think the joke there is that Abin Sur warned him about something, and he's not telling John Stewart the entire truth about what it was related to. Because Hal has a theory that Abin Sur's spacecraft was shot down over the planet and just caused him to crash in Rushville, but he doesn't know who was behind the crash, like who was responsible for shooting him down. I already have some theories about that. We will learn more about it in future episodes, though. By 2016, many decades later, aliens are now hiding out in Rushville, like multiple aliens, so there's something about Rushville that aliens really want, and people on Earth that are monitoring it through the Macon character. Like he says he's the caretaker with an NDA and a much more powerful rich person who's backing him. Somebody maybe on the level of Lex Luthor, somebody with a ton of money with really deep pockets. One of the other obvious reasons why aliens love to hide out in Rushville is because it's so obscure, like it's so nothing of a town, so small, that nobody would think twice about regular people there, and it's so easy for them to disguise themselves to look like humans. Currently in the DCU as of 2016, they say there's 14 alien species who can disguise themselves well enough to fool MRI scans like deep technological scans. So Rushville has become the center of this intergalactic alien war conspiracy that Hal Jordan is investigating with Jon Stewart along for the ride. His comment about not wearing the suit as much as he used to anymore also flows with the idea that he's grown mistrustful of the Guardians. They have the joke about how he flies there and he makes Jon take the slow route because he doesn't have a ring, he doesn't know how to fly yet, so he has to take a regular plane. It just takes him a little bit longer to get there. But once he arrives at the football field, they introduce the idea that Hal Jordan as Green Lantern is allowed to have seniority on Earth in any crime related to aliens, but the government doesn't really cede to him that often, and the government isn't a huge fan of his either. It treats him like any other regular person most of the time, so he's not that big of a celebrity that he's immune to the law or anything like that. And they discover a bunch of aliens hiding as humans in Rushville were all killed by someone, but it's not clear who. There are a couple different groups that we meet in this episode and in the trailers. There's Macon's group, who seems like he has a small militia of people backed by a very powerful, wealthy person who really hates aliens in a xenophobic kind of Lex Luthor type of way. And it seems like based on the trailers, there's another group of aliens that are out for blood, and you're just left to wonder who was behind the killings, like who did this. So there are a couple red herrings in the episode. Sheriff Carey is played by Kelly MacDonald. She's married to Macon's son, Billy, and has a son with him, but the way they play it, she implies she hates Macon, her father-in-law, and he has some kind of power or blackmail over her and the town in general, and she's in debt to him, or just something bad is happening in the town and he's behind a lot of it. Either way, she is very fearful of him and his mystery boss. Most of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart's interactions in this episode are him teaching Jon Stewart how to be a good Green Lantern and space cop detective, like he is actually teaching him, but he's doing it the hard way, like giving him hard lessons. Mostly using for jokes here too, because he really hates the idea that the Guardians want to replace him. Notice he also tells Jon that he's not getting his ring until he dies, like I'm going to do this job until I die, but at the end of the episode, when he finds him sitting in the stands where he found him sitting before 10 years prior, seemingly dead, he doesn't find the ring on him, and Jon doesn't have the ring either, so either he hid the ring or the person who killed Hal Jordan or seemingly killed him took it. So that's also one of the big WTF mysteries that they leave the episode on. What happened to Hal and who took the ring? Jon Stewart's talk here in 2016 of respecting the chain of command, being the dutiful soldier, stepping to line, is them leaning on the idea that the Guardians really want a dutiful soldier who will follow orders, unlike Hal Jordan. Once they capture the alien suspect, he takes Jon to the local bar because Sheriff Carey won't let him interrogate him, so he's trying to get arrested so that he'll get locked up next to him. So he pisses off the townies, gets in a fight just to get arrested, but she clocks it a mile away and locks him in the broom closet overnight where he can't talk to anyone and he can't use his ring because he left it with Jon. A lot of the banter between Hal Jordan and Sheriff Carey I think are meant to establish a romantic relationship over time. Like eventually the idea is that by 2026 they've been in a romantic relationship for a while. He manifests a $20 bill with his willpower to show you how constructs are made. This is the first time we've seen an episode an actual construct being manifested, whereas previously Jon Stewart used one to bubble himself, but we didn't actually see that happen on screen. So they're also using this episode to sort of wade you into like the really cosmic Green Lantern comic book stuff for fans who don't normally read comics or don't watch comic book movies or watch comic book shows. Like they're trying to make this show for casual people. These are what the Green Lantern Corps are. These are what Green Lantern constructs are. This is how they're made. This is what they do. This is how they work. The whole fact he can fool a machine with his fake $20 bill also means he's very good at making highly complex constructs, like he's extremely, extremely good at it. The song he uses to piss off the townies is Brand New Key, and the reason he drinks double is to dull the pain of the fight. Like, I'm about to go get in a fight, so give me a couple extra drinks. Notice he tells Jon Stewart one of the most important lessons is knowing when to use the power of the Green Lantern ring. Yes, for moral reasons, but mostly for strategy, more importantly, because the rings can only hold a certain amount of energy until you need to recharge them with the lantern battery. Then you are SOL until you can recharge the rings. So it's a really easy way to get yourself killed in a battle if you don't plan properly. Which the alien suspect tests him on later. It's not a secret. Everyone around the universe understands how Green Lantern's powers and rings work and know how to fight them and how to wait until the rings have run out of power to actually take a swipe at them.
I have plenty of power.
He mentions Sector 2814. It's the sector of space that Earth is inside. Typically, each sector of space only has one lantern that just takes care of many different planets. But in a couple cases, there are some sectors in the comics that have multiple Green Lanterns, like Earth eventually does. But the way he explains it, at this point in the timeline, he's the only Green Lantern that has been born on Earth. Not the first Lantern of this sector of space, just the first one that was born on Earth. The actual first Lantern of this sector was Yalan Gur, who was an ancient Green Lantern. Zack Snyder actually did a version of him during the Justice League Snyder Cut during the big flashback war against Darkseid. There's a lot of other clues that they drop during this conversation too. He tells John Stewart that the Guardians of Oa never wanted anyone ever coming near Earth, which is why my early theory is that the Guardians were the ones who shot down Abin Sur's spaceship and it crashed to Earth, not that he came there on purpose, as Hal explains the theory that he also believes that the Guardians were behind it too. Which I think is meant to set up the idea that he doesn't trust the Guardians. Maybe because there's something special on Earth the Guardians are trying to protect or something they're trying to hide. John then meets Zoe Macon, who makes the joke about Hal proposing marriage to him because a ring is a ring after all. She's not wrong about that. They proceed to get it on in her truck. He even lights her cigarette with the lantern ring, and we find out that she's married to William Macon, Garrett Dillahunt's character, and she's just DTF like this. Like, her character description just reads that she enjoys messing with men like this, but she doesn't seem villainous, just that she likes to have a little bit of fun. She is just wild like that. Not totally clear why she's married to Macon though, because it doesn't seem like they have an open marriage. Maybe he just tolerates this kind of behavior, but there's darker stuff going on with him and their family. It definitely seems like there's a lot of really bad stuff that he's into. Notice she also clocks that he's a Green Lantern immediately, and she knows all about them and how they work, so she's smarter and has more information than she lets on. John also says here during 2016, Earth only has one lantern, but we know by present day, 2026, there are going to be multiple, at least eventually, by the events of Man of Tomorrow. Mystery status for Hal Jordan, like we don't know what's happening with him in 2026 or 2027. He might be coming back in present day, but he might not be a Green Lantern anymore, wink wink, if you know, you know. Hal gets arraigned by the local judge, which is meant to show you that just because he is a celebrity superhero on Earth in the DCU, the government doesn't really give him special treatment. It's the same way that Lex Luthor, during the events of the Superman movie, tried to use the law against Superman, and he was almost successful. A lot of people ask about this too. If Superman is so powerful, why does he subject himself to Earth's laws? It's because he's not a psychopath and he wants people to love him, like he wants to protect Earth. So it's one of the reasons why in the Superman movie, he turns himself in. He doesn't force the police or other powerful people to come for him. And it kind of seems like it's the same deal with Hal Jordan, even though the way they talk about Hal Jordan, it sounds like he's seen the inside of prison way more than someone like Superman. Jason Ritter's Billy Macon is the town lawyer, works for his father, and bails Hal out in exchange for his help getting rid of the aliens in town, basically. Like, that's Macon's whole goal, is to get rid of any aliens on planet Earth, which is why it seems like he's a human. Not totally confirmed, like it doesn't confirm that he's a human, it just makes it seem like he is a human who's just extremely xenophobic. A xenophobic group backed by an even more powerful person who's even more xenophobic, who wants him to watch over Rushville because it's both a hotbed of alien activity and there might be something else secret going on there or some power in town. We will see. We'll talk about that over the next couple of episodes. You can let me know if you think the NDA is for Luthor Corp and it's Lex Luthor behind it and they own the land that Macon is on, because NDA just screams Earth Corporation and that just feels very Luthor Corp coded. We see that he has a small militia with advanced weaponry planning for an alien war to break out soon. Later, after the time jump in 2026, John Stewart also sees his compound in ruins, like he lost whatever major battle happened there, but we won't see that go down till later episodes. We learn that John Stewart is vegan like he is in the comics, and then they set up some more chemistry between Hal and Carrie, so I think this just foreshadows more of them having a relationship closer to 2026 at the end of the episode. Also probably one of the reasons why she grows more familiar with John Stewart, because he stays in touch with Hal Jordan because of their continued Green Lantern training and him watching over the town, so maybe Hal Jordan just stays in town and gets into a relationship with her eventually. They meet William Macon, Garrett Dillahunt's character. That name is not from the comics, but it's supposed to be like a secret cover for something else. Garrett Dillahunt implied that we would learn that he's playing somebody that we know from the comics, so it does sound like he's actually secretly playing a really big character, and we'll find out who eventually. He then tries to pitch Hal to help get rid of all the aliens in town, and generally on planet Earth, but mostly just this town. Macon also lets John know that he slept with his wife, probably because he has her tailed all over town. Really dark, really powerful dudes like this always have all their people tailed. When they start investigating the suspect, John starts drawing the suspect because he's an architect, he's a skilled artist. It's one of the reasons why his lantern constructs are so complex. Hal then trips up the alien suspect by giving him the Harry Potter reference, but the other joke here is that Kelly Macdonald actually starred in the Harry Potter movies as Helena Ravenclaw. Also timely because Warner Brothers, who makes this show through HBO and DC, also is making a Harry Potter reboot TV series for HBO that's going to release episodes later this year. Then the alien reveals that he's an intergalactic war criminal hiding out on Earth, and if he's found here, it could lead to an even worse war, so if he's found, he's prepared to sacrifice himself to keep the secret, and they don't want the Green Lantern Corps or the Guardians of Oa to learn what they're doing, or what he's doing. He also clocks that Hal Jordan seems like he kinda wants to die, like he's given the vibes of a dude that's ready to die, and he mockingly says that he violated his oath, reciting the Green Lantern oath, "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight, let those who worship evil's might, beware my power, Green Lantern's light." During the Comic-Con panel, all three of them actually recited the oath. We also find out the Guardians of Oa previously had branded Hal Jordan as an oath breaker, but I think that has something to do with what happened with Sinestro rebelling against the Guardians that we'll learn about in future episodes. But something happened, and I think with Sinestro, that caused Hal Jordan to break his oath, and the Guardians don't like him, and he also doesn't like the Guardians. The alien detonates his explosive, killing himself, and we jump 10 years to the future in 2026, right before the events of the Man of Tomorrow movie. That takes place in 2027, though, to give you an idea. You notice John Stewart still doesn't have the ring. It's winter. He's probably been working as an architect when he's not with Hal Jordan, but Jordan sounds like he's stayed in Rushville in this relationship with Carrie's character. Something went down on Macon's compound, his ranch, aliens probably, maybe some war that they lost, but he's become good friends with Carrie because of, I think, her relationship with Hal over the years. In 10 years, very long time, so there's left to wonder what happened during that 10-year time jump. Like, why is Hal Jordan here? What is he still waiting for or watching for? And what happened to him? Why does he seem like he's dead? Why does it seem like someone murdered him with a projectile weapon through the head? And who took his ring? So they're ending the episode really wanting you to think that he's dead at the very end of this timeline, but because he's in all the episodes and most of the series takes place in 2016, we'll just see what eventually leads to that moment and whether or not this is a huge misdirect and whether or not Hal Jordan comes back, which I do think that he will in the future.
The death of Hal Jordan is probably the most controversial idea that we had.
So everybody start posting all your theories about what really happened to Hal Jordan and how they're going to pay this off in the finale. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below and let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the episode to the comics that I didn't talk about during the video. They just released a much bigger trailer for episode 2 and other future episodes of the series. I'll do a video for that as soon as possible, and then my full episode 2 video will post next Sunday after they release it. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Lanterns episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.